undergo this much punishment because of his status within the community, his the backing of his uncle and the status which he held. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would see the difficulties. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that لَوْ خَرَجْتُمْ إِلَىٰ أَرْضِ الْحَبَشَةِ, that it would be so much better if you would leave to the lands of Habasha. فَإِنَّ بِهَا مَلِكًا لَا يُظْلَمُ عِنْدَهُ أَحَدٌ, because there is a king there and nobody is oppressed in his kingdom. He's a very just king. وَهِيَ أَرْضُ صِدْقٍ, the land is a very truthful, rightful land. حَتَّى يَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ فَرَجًا مِمَّا أَنْتُمْ فِيهِ, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes an opening for you and grants you ease from the difficulties that you are in. So in the 5th year of Hijrah, or in the 5th year of Nubuwwah, rather, in the 5th year of Nubuwwah, in the month of Rajab, a group of Muslims left Makkah Mukarramah and they migrated to Habasha. They migrated to Habasha, Abyssinia, North Africa, modern day Ethiopia and that area. This group of individuals, there were 10 men and 5 women that left Makkah Mukarramah and went to Habasha. Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu ta'ala an, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Auf, Sayyidina Zubair ibn al-Awam, Abu Hudhayfa, Mus'ab ibn Umair, Abu Salama, Uthman ibn Mad'un, Amir ibn Rabi'a, Suhail ibn Bayda, and Abu Sabara radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, with the 10 men. The women, some say 4, some say 5. So Ruqayya, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the wife of Sayyidina Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala an, Sahla bint Suhail, Salama, Layla bint Abi Hathama, and Kulthum bint Suhail radiyallahu ta'ala anhunna. These were the individuals that migrated first to Habasha. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the very first person since Lut alayhi salatu wassalam, who migrated with his wife, the very first husband and wife to migrate since then is Uthman and his wife Ruqayya radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. Now, these individuals migrated. Why did they migrate? What was the reason of migration? Number one. And second thing, why Habasha? Generally, the reason we understand of the migration is, which as I just mentioned, the persecution that they faced and the difficulties that the Muslims had to undergo. But if you look at these names, Sayyidina Uthman, Sayyidina Zubair, Sayyidina Mus'ab ibn Umair radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, they're not Bilal, it wasn't Suhaib, it wasn't Ali Yasir, Sayyidina Yasir, Ammar bin Yasir, etc. They weren't these names. If you look at these names, they were all noble men of Quraysh. And they all hail from different butun and the different tribes within the Quraysh. They all had a very high social standing within the Makkah Mukarramah community. And they were persecuted, but they weren't persecuted to that extent which the other weak of the community were persecuted. So because of this reason, the ulama state that yes, one of the reasons was persecution, but that wasn't the real reason of this migration. There was another reason and other asbab of migration. One of the reasons is number one, to spread the message of Islam to other lands. The purpose of da'wah. That Islam, the word of Islam, is not being able to be spread far and wide here. We've got restrictions, difficulties, hostilities. Let us move somewhere else and let them spread the word of Islam there. That was one of the reasons. And another reason which is given is that one is fleeing the punishment and one is safeguarding the deen. So there's a difference between the two. One is a person who is punished too much, so he flees that persecution and the punishment. And the other is a person fears for their deen. That if I continue being persecuted in this manner, then what if I lose my deen? What if I'm unable to practice upon my deen? So that was another reason why they migrated to Habasha. Another reason, which is a very profound reason which the certain ulama have mentioned, is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to find a safe haven for Islam, a headquarter for Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Makkah Mukarramah. He struggled there in Makkah Mukarramah, and he saw that here is a very hostile environment. I can't spread the word of Islam the way I wish to. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also tried Taif later on, as we will see. He also tried Taif. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's Medina Munawwara as well, which became the headquarters. But if we look here, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose Habasha, and the Muslims went to Habasha. This was the first group. We'll read later on, we'll come across later on that there were actually a second wave of migration that took place to Habasha as well. Inshallah, we'll touch on that later. But they remained in Habasha until when? Ja'far radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was in the second wave, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. They remained in Habasha until Khaybar was conquered in Medina Munawwara. And Khaybar took place when Rasulullah migrated to Medina Munawwara. After that, in the second year, Badr, third year, Uhud, fourth year, little small skirmishes, fifth year, Ahzab. Sixth year, Sulh al-Hudaybiyah took place. And straight after Hudaybiyah, Khaybar took place. When Khaybar was conquered, at that time, Ja'far radiyallahu anhu came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Habasha. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he met, Ja'far was his cousin brother, the elder brother of Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu anhu. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam embraced Ja'far, he said, I don't know whether I'm more happy because Khaybar has been conquered, or I'm more happy because Ja'far is here today. So Sayyidina Ja'far radiyallahu anhu remained there. Sayyidina Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was in Yemen. Yemen is south of Hijaz. So in Yemen, when Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu came to Makkah Mukarramah, he accepted Islam. Thereafter he went to back to Yemen. Rasulullah said, go back to Yemen. So he went back to Yemen. After returning back to Yemen, he heard that some Muslims have migrated to Habasha. So when he went to Habasha, Ja'far radiyallahu anhu and others, they told him, look, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us to stay here. You come with us and you stay here as well. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated to Medina Munawwara. But look at the foresight of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That we've migrated to Medina Munawwara, but Medina Munawwara is still within Hijaz. It's still, you could say, within a stone's throw from Makkah Mukarramah. It's not very far. And there was always the fear that the Makkans could come, which is what happened in Badr, which is what happened in Uhud, which is what happened in Ahzab as well. Once Ahzab was done, and then all the disbelievers got together to try and crush the Muslims, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after they retreated and the nusrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that up until today, they would come to us. Now they're not going to return. Now if there's anything, we will go to them. They're not going to come to us now. Meaning now Makkah, Medina Munawwara now is safe, and now Medina Munawwara is not under fear of being attacked. Medina Munawwara is now safe. This is our headquarters now. That is when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed Sayyidina Ja'far radiyallahu anhu that now the need for you to remain there no longer remains. You can come. Basically, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose Habasha as a place of hijrah if Medina Munawwara wouldn't have worked out. That is one of the main. That is why if you look at these names as well, the names are all influential individuals who could set up a base there for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayyidina Mus'ab ibn Umair radiyallahu anhu, when he came back, he didn't go back again. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent him where? To Medina Munawwara. That you go and you become the first mu'allim of Medina Munawwara. So he was sent first to Habasha, then he returned back. So then he didn't go back. So Rasulullah sent him, okay, you've not gone back, so you now do what you were supposed to do there, do it in Medina Munawwara. So this was the foresight of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And another thing is a bit of a social hit upon the people of Quraysh as well. That the people of Quraysh see that their close family members have gone. It's not Bilal that has gone, it's not Suhaib that has gone, it's not Ali Yasir that have gone, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. It is Uthman who has gone, it is Zubair who has gone. And people will speak as well that, what kind of people are you that you persecute your own blood and your own family, that they felt compelled to leave you and go to other lands? So that was also one of another reason why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose these individuals. And they were all, as I said, all from different tribes within the Quraysh. They weren't all from the Banu Hashim. They were all from the different parts of the Quraysh, and they were all selectively chosen by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and then instructed to go to Habasha. Now why Habasha? Second question now. So now why the migration? We've understood. Why Habasha? The reason for Habasha, number one, as mentioned in the actual hadith, as mentioned before, was that the king of Habasha was a very just king. His name was Najashi. Well, not his name, the title given to him was Najashi. And he was a very just king. And his justice was renowned throughout. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew that if we go there, then he will look everything not emotionally, but rather he would look at it the way it is. That what is correct, what is incorrect. He will see that we're being persecuted. He will see that we've got no freedom of our own religion. So he will give them a safe haven, sanctity within their own, within the sanctuary, within his land. That's number one. Another reason was that Habasha was a place where the people of Quraysh would also visit quite often as well. Sometimes the Quraysh would go there for business trips. They would go there for business trips, and it was a kind of a business hub as well. So this was something which the Muslims would be aware of, the area of Habasha, number one. And number two, they could also sustain themselves as well, because it was a business hub and a place where different people would come with their goods, etc. So they could also have a good source of income and a living there as well. So that was another reason why Habasha was chosen. Another reason which is mentioned was that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a bit of a connection with Habasha. One is because of Najashi. Another is that the religion there was Christianity. And regarding the Christians, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself states that the Christians have a soft spot for Islam, as opposed to the polytheists. لَتَجِدَنَّ أَشَدَّ النَّاسِ عَدَاوَةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الْيَهُودُ وَالَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا وَلَتَجِدَنَّ أَقْرَبَ النَّاسِ مَوَدَّةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى. So those people that are the Nasara, the Christians, they are the most closest to Islam, and they have a soft spot for Islam. Because he was Christian, his land was a Christian land, the people there, the inhabitants, they were Christians as well. So that is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam thought that no, go there, and that will be a more better environment, not a hostile environment, rather a more better environment, conducive for the believer and for the spreading of Islam and da'wah. And another reason, as I said, was that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had that connection because of Ayman radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Ayman was the slave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who he received from his father in his wiratha, and she also looked after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was the one who was with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when his mother passed away on the way back from Medina Munawwara to Makkah at the place of Abwa. And she's the one who then brought him to Makkah Mukarramah, handed him over to Abdul Muttalib, and continued to look after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes she would even make certain foods. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would ask her that, "Ma hada, what is this?" So she would say that, "Ta'amun nasna'uhu bi ardina," that this is certain foods which we make in our land. So she would obviously tell him stories that in our land it is like this. You know, in Habasha we were like this. Our communities are like this. The king there is like this. The climate is like this. You talk about your own country. So Ayman radiyallahu ta'ala, obviously, and especially when Rasulullah was a young child, his mother wasn't there now. So who was going to give him that affection, that love, that muhabba, that motherly? So Ayman. And Ayman obviously would possibly tell him bedtime stories, etc., things like this. So she would tell him what? Stories regarding her own land. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had that fondness of Habasha. So he thought that, this seems like a good land. And from the stories, from what I've heard and gathered from Ayman radiyallahu anha, maybe this is the ideal place where we should go. So that is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose that the lands of Habasha should be the place of hijrah. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed the Sahaba Kiram radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. So they left in Rajab, in the 5th year of Nubuwah, and secretly, one by one, not together, if all 15 of them obviously left Makkah Mukarramah at once, then it would come into their eyes. So secretly, some maybe today, some maybe tomorrow in the morning, they kind of all left. And they left and they came to Jeddah, which was a port. They came to Jeddah, and it just so happened that there was a ship which was leaving for Habasha very, very soon. So they all gathered there and they all boarded the ship. And then the people of Makkah Mukarramah realized, these people are missing. Where have they gone? What's happened? Then they realized that they've gone to Jeddah to catch a ship to make sail to Habasha. So they immediately made their way towards Jeddah. By the time they got there, it so happened that, alhamdulillah, the ship left. The ship left and they had set sail to Habasha. They had missed the ship. They returned back. When they returned back, the Muslims then remained in Habasha for 3 months. In Rajab they went, Shaban they were there, Ramadan they were there, and then in Dhul Qa'dah they returned back to Makkah Mukarramah. Now, why did they return back to Makkah Mukarramah? Inshallah, we'll discuss next week, inshallah. Why they return back to Makkah Mukarramah, inshallah, we'll discuss next week. The reason why. I think we'll discuss it next week, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah, we'll discuss it next week. The reason why they returned back to Makkah Mukarramah, and a few certain things had happened whilst they were gone as well. So the reason, inshallah, shall be discussed next week. But one thing we understand is that when a person, the importance of hijrah, that when a person fears for the deen, that the staying steadfast upon the deen, in an environment where the most important thing for a believer is his iman, safeguarding the iman. There's nothing more important than that. And we have our elders, our fathers, etc. They came to this country for economic reasons and to have a better life, etc. But it is important that we remain steadfast upon the deen. That is the most important thing. And Hazrat Maulana S.A.W. Madani rahmatullahi alayh, those elders that would have heard him, he would come here many times and he would have his set topic in his bayans. And one of the things he would always say, from the elders I've heard myself, I was too young to remember myself, but the elders would always say, he would always say that if you lose your iman, or you are unable to even safeguard the iman of your children, then remember very carefully, for you to remain here in these lands is haram, and to make hijrah for you is farz. So it is very, very important that we understand that the most important thing for us is our iman. And we need to do whatever we can. If we're living in this environment, then it's important that we understand the challenges that we are facing, and we understand the situations our children face within the schools, within the colleges, within the universities, etc. And we give the correct tarbiyah to the generations to come, so that they understand the importance of their deen. The Sahaba Kiram radiallahu anhum had that iman, and they had that conviction, and they had that steadfastness. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would tell them and give that tarbiyah and that supervision. So it is important that we understand as well that we ourselves remain steadfast, and we give that correct understanding, tarbiyah, and we give everything to our children from a worldly perspective. But as I said, the most important thing that we give our children is their iman. There's nothing more important. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions there is nothing more important. You can give them everything. The best, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that the best form of sadaqah is that sadaqah which is given to, which is that money spent to safeguard the iman of your child and to give him the Islamic ta'aleem and the Islamic akhlaq. That is the best form of sadaqah which a person can give. So we need to understand that this is our responsibility. The times which we are living through is difficult. The months we're going through, we're all aware. And in these times, in schools, what's being taught, in colleges, etc., you have constant upon the media as well. It's important that we remain steadfast, we understand our responsibility, and we don't let our iman waver and flinch. We remain steadfast, and if worse comes to worse, if we need to make hijrah, then so be it. Where ardullahi wasi'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and in the ulama have mentioned that the verses of the Quran, the very first verses regarding hijrah, were for the people who had made the hijrah of Habasha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا فِي اللَّهِ مِن بَعْدِ مَا ظُلِمُوا لَنُبَوِّئَنَّهُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَلَأَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ أَكْبَرُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. That those people who make hijrah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the safeguarding of their iman, because they're suffering, they're struggling, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant them a place within the lands as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant them goodness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward them. So the most important thing, as we need to understand, is safeguarding our iman and the iman of our children. and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep them safeguarded until the day of Qiyamah, as long as our generations remain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep them all steadfast with Iman and Islam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ta'ala khayra khalq Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.